The Grace and Charm of the Shaggiest Mountaineers, from Abducting a General, by Leigh Fermor. An hour after sunset, our two parties now rejoined, we were winding up a steep and scarcely discernible goat path. On a mule in the centre, muffled against the cold in Strati's green gendarme's greatcoat, with Manoli by his side, rode the general, or rather, Theophilus. The words "kruip" or strategos had been forbidden even as far back as Castamonitsa. Billy told me they had had a German alarm during the day and had moved their hideout. Could it have been George and me? They'd even managed to get some sleep. The general, they said, had been reasonable and cooperative. His most immediate worry, which he repeated to me during our first rest for a smoke among the rocks, was the loss of his knight's cross. I said it had probably come off in the struggle. Perhaps it had been picked up during the clean-up, in which case I would see that it was returned, and he thanked me. Apropos of the leaflets, which I translated, he said, "Well, you surely didn't expect my colleague Brouwer to remain inactive when he learnt of my rape, mein Raub." "No, but the Germans won't catch us." I touched a handy ilex trunk here. "The Cretans are all on our side, you know." "Yes, I can see they are. And of course, you've always got me." "Yes, General, we've always got you." At another of these halts, he said after a sigh, and almost to himself, "Post coitum triste." I was astonished at this comment, and told him that only a few minutes before, and far out of earshot, Billy and I had decided that this phrase exactly suited the brief mood of deflation that had followed the capture. "It's all right for you, Major," the general said. "Military glory, I suppose. But my whole career has come to bits. Meine ganze Karriere ist kapot gegangen. The war is over for me, as you said. To think that my promotion from General Major to General Lieutenant has just come through." His heavy face, he had a massive jutting chin, grey straight hair, cropped at the sides, but long enough to fall over his forehead and blue eyes, looked morose and sad. "I wish I had never come to this accursed island." He laughed mirthlessly. "It was supposed to be a nice change after the Russian front." We both laughed. It was all rather extraordinary. He was a thick-set, massively built man, but not fat. He was wearing, unfortunately for the journey ahead, the same lightweight field grey as we were, with the loose ski trousers of mountain troops, and, thank heavens, thick mountain boots. He was the 13th son of a Lutheran pastor in Hanover, and a professional soldier to the backbone. He must have had, in surroundings where there was more scope for it, a solid and commanding presence. In the small hours, we climbed off the track and curled up on the bracken floor of an old shepherd's hut. The fire in the middle lit up a conical stone igloo, cobwebbed and sooty, and lined with tiers of cheeses like minor millstones and dripping bags of whey. Except for an hour interrupted by comings and goings on the divan running around the priest's living room, George and I had not slept since Skalani. We all rose again in the dark and continued our journey. As dawn broke, we were hailed from an overhanging ledge. It was one of Mihaly Xyloris's lookouts, sitting with a gun across his knees. In a moment he was bounding down the hill. He threw his gun aside with a yell and flung his arms around me, Billy, Manoli and George, stopping just in time at the astounded general. It was one of my honorary godbrothers, Costa Kefalogiannis, about 19, as lithe and wild-looking as a young panther, with blonde complexion, huge green eyes, and flashing teeth. For the general, breaking bread with Mihaly and his men and us must have seemed rather odd. The many signs of the cross before falling to, and then the glasses clashed together with the usual resistance toasts. Victory, freedom, Blessed Virgin, stand close to us. May she scour the rust from our guns, and may we die without shame. Mihaly and his band were scrupulously polite, but they found it hard to wrench their glance from our strange prize. The shaggiest and most unlettered Cretan mountaineers often possess a charm and grace of manner amounting to a very high style, even if the supper is only goat's milk and rock-hard, twice-baked shepherd's bread. After the handful of petty bourgeois collaborators in Heraklion, which must have been his only social experience of Greeks, this would have come as a surprise to the general. It was thought wiser to do without a fire. Drinking a lot of raki to keep warm, we sang for a while the old Cretan insurrection song, When Will the Skies Clear? Elaborate rhyming couplets, a resitika, a foothill song. My swift little swallow, an eagle was sitting in a minor mode, and Philidum, a song with a Turkish tune that I was so fond of that it had become my nickname. Through lack of covering, Billy, the general, and I ended up, not for the last time, sleeping all three under the same blanket in the wireless cave, with Manoli and George on either side, nursing their Marlin guns and taking it in turns to sleep. Verminous as such places always were, it was a greater torment to my bedfellows than to me, coarsened as I was by nearly 2 years of onslaught. We experienced a curious moment as dawn streamed into the mouth of the cave, which framed the white crease of Mount Ida. We were all three lying smoking in silence, when the general, half to himself, slowly said, Vides ut alta stet nive candidum soracte. This was the opening line and a bit of one of the few odes of Horace I knew by heart. I was in luck. Nec jam sustiniant onus, I went on. Silvae laborantes geluque fulmina constituerent acuto. I continued through the other stanzas to the end of the ode. After a few seconds of silence, the general said, Ach so, Herr Major. For a full 5 minutes, the war had evaporated without a trace. A few hours' climb brought us within hail of Kapitan Petragiorgio's outposts, high on the shoulders of Ida. Soon we were in the toils of a welcome, even more triumphant and demonstrative than Mihali's. Petraco Georgi, a tall, booted, bandoliered, robust, warm-hearted, voluble, and with his sparkling eyes and twirling moustache and beard full of charm, was one of the 3 original guerrilla captains of the occupation. Taking to the hills at the invasion, they had all suffered many hardships. The heavy and buffalo moustache Petraco Georgi was brave and ruthless, a sort of Tamerlane. I always liked him, in spite of his glaring faults, of which the most glaring was a headstrong instability of temperament which made him prone to rash acts, doings which, in a moment, could bring down in smithereens a year's careful preparation by the rest of the resistance movement. I think the general was rather impressed by his grand air and his hospitable and expansive manner. Also, perhaps, by the large quantity of arms of the men who swarmed the rocks in large numbers, many familiar and friendly faces among them, and gun-running trips and parachute drops were beginning to bear fruit. Petraco Georgi gave us a new guide, and Antoni Zed, who came from the Amari on Ida's southern flank, left in advance with 2 more to send back as runners to a rendezvous on the other side of the watershed. We worked out a system of bonfires to indicate the route, if he could find a cunning way between the German concentrations. All said that large numbers of Germans were gathering around the southern slopes. If no way existed for the moment, he would send us word to go to ground and stay put.